And welcome back to Because Games. So, here we are, final part of this series on this game. I don't know if I'll finish the game or not, but you'll at least get a general idea of how the game finishes. On the last time, as you notice, we prevented our opponent from readying his champion, and he attacked us with a ability called Thez Press, which, as you can see, it deals 3 damage plus 1 for all brawling or brawler-only abilities this turn. So in this turn it did 4 damage. I couldn't block it or defend it, or what I call avoid, so I had to eat 4 damage. But his turn is over, so I'll switch back him. That ability is resolved. Discard. He's done. My turn. Ready all. Draw. No energy to play, so I am kind of stuck with, well, I don't know. Now this is a pretty good card called Total Counter. It is going to be a rarer card than it is right now. Obviously, in the print version, it'll be a rare card. It's an instant defensive ability, which means it can be played at any point during a defensive turn to counter a specific ability. Like, you know how I mentioned in the first episode that the resolution of cards goes instant abilities, champion damage, regular abilities. You can use an instant ability defensive card to pick whichever one you want to resolve instead of having to do it in order. So it's a nice little benefit to playing an instant card. Now this one, as a total counter, is a defensive card, 3 energy. Damage dealt to you by target attack is instead dealt to the attacking champion. So if I get hit by something that's pretty nasty, I can play this card right away for 3 energy and reverse it entirely on my opponent. And he's going to eat all that damage. And, you know, it's going to be brilliant. So, obviously I don't want to play that now. That means I really don't have anything else I can play at this point, so I'm just going to, I could do a finisher. It's a little early for it, though. Actually, no, I can't do the finisher, because normally you can only do the finishers if your opponent is at 50% or less health. If I have not updated the rules for that, I should soon. So yeah, you can't play your finisher unless your opponent is at half health or less to kind of make it a finishing move. But in any event, I'm just going to hold off and attack like normal. So, boom, exhausted. Can't do anything, it's just going to eat 3 damage. I know you can hear my cat in the background because he's being noisy. But he's going to eat 3 damage. So, 1, 2, 3. Still a pretty close match right now. My opponent has 28 health, I have 25. But that is it for my turn. So, back to the opponent. Obviously, that ability we cast last turn has resolved, so that's gone. He can ready everything now. Draw. And he still has energy, so let's play another energy card. Now we got 5. 5 energy is a lot of energy. You can do some pretty solid stuff with 5 energy. Let's take a look. Here's an instant ability defensive card. Avoid one incoming ability or direct attack. Cost is doubled to avoid finishing moves. So this is basically a full avoid. If you play this card, any ability or attack is 100% considered avoided, and it deals 0 damage or it has 0 effect. Here's another brawler-only type ability called Ground and Pound. You attach it to the target champion. It deals 2 damage when it's played and 2 damage each turn for 3 turns. If Ground and Pound deals the initial damage, subsequent damage cannot be prevented. It also applies 1 pin counter. This is a pretty baller card here. Now the trick is, if it's avoided wholly on this turn when I try to play it, then it deals no subsequent damage. But if it deals any damage on this first turn, every other turn that it affects a champion, it still deals damage, and it can't be removed or avoided or anything like that. So it's a nasty card, and it applies a pin counter. So we're going to give it a shot. Shall we? Here we go. 5 energy. Spend it. Ground and Pound. Big card by my opponent. However, remember what we talked about in the last one here? Total counter? This is the time to use total counter. Tap 3 energy. Take out total counter. Bam. Now all of a sudden, this Ground and Pound is stuck on the opponent who tried to play it. So we flip back to him. His card's been completely avoided. He has nothing he can do to stop this. So he's going to have to be stuck with Ground and Pound, affecting him. He can't prevent it. So it's going to deal 2 damage to him this turn, and 2 more damage for 3 more turns that he cannot prevent, or avoid, or remove, or do anything to. That's the risk you take when you play a card like that. It's a great card to get on your opponent, but if they got a nasty card like Total Counter, you're kind of boned. So Total Counter has resolved. The ability is stuck to my opponent. He just ate 2 damage this round, and he'll be eating 2 damage every other round. Now this also applies 1 pin counter. So, now the trick behind Total Counter is that if we read the card specifically, and I may need to clarify this a little bit, it does say that the damage dealt to you by a target attack, and target attack refers to a champion attacking or an ability dealing offensive damage. Damage dealt to you by target attack is instead dealt to attacking champion. It does not say reverses effect of target card. So for the sake of Total Counter, because it's a low-cost card, I'm actually gonna probably leave it like this, and there may be future cards introduced that also reverse the effect of the card. But for now, only the damage part of Ground and Pound is dealt to the champion. The pin counter does not apply. You have to deal your own pin counters when you reverse a move like this. Okay? So it's a little, I know it's a little bit vagary in the rules and shit like that, but whatever. It'll be fine. You'll be fine. You'll be swell. So anyway, we dealt some damage on that. That's really it. I actually can attack because I didn't attack last time. So we'll go ahead and well, actually, let me reverse. Because this is a brawler champion, remember, any turn where an attack is avoided, you deal 2 unavoidable damage to the target. So I still eat 2 damage anyway. I just avoid the debuff and the pin counter, which is still pretty big. So we're going to exhaust my champion, and we're going to attack. I may have messed this rule up earlier in the game, where any turn where an attack is avoided. Forgive me. It's one thing when you're only playing your own deck. It's another thing when you're trying to play 2 separate decks and 2 different players. So if I fuck this ability up earlier in the match, whatever, doesn't really matter. Like I said, I'm not going to play this entire game. I'm just going to give you a brief rundown on how it works. This whole thing can go back and forth for a while. So anyway, just going to attack again for 3. Back to my champion. Yeah, I can't really do anything right now, at least defensively. Now the other thing too is, I mean, you can play instant ability cards whenever you want, unless they're instant defensive cards. Those you can only, those have their own effect. But an instant damage card, like I could play it right now if I wanted to. I don't really have to, but I can. It's not going to change anything or do anything special if I play it now. But it might be a case where, say, my opponent only had 2 health left, and he tries to attack. Say I have 3 health and he has 2. Alright? I'm exhausted. I can't attack. He attacks me for 3, but I have this. Bam, I cast it. Instant abilities always take the priority in the turn breakdown. In the chain of events, instants come first. I would deal my damage, he would lose. Game over, I win. So, there's perks to it all, It's all about strategy and when the card's effective. Right now, it's not very effective. I'm just going to hold on to it. I'll eat my 3 damage here because I can't really do anything else about it. So there we go. 3 damage. 1, 2, 3. Okay. So his turn is done. Back to me. Ready all. Draw. Okay. Oh, I drew another total counter. Or no, I didn't. I'm actually looking at my discard. I was wondering why these cards looked familiar. So if I go back to my hand, it doesn't matter. I still didn't have anything I could play. But anyway. That was an example of how you can use wild counter in a other scenario. So anyway, we'll play the energy card we just drew. Now we have 5. Alright, technician only card. Looks like we can play this. A slam deals 3 damage to target champion and applies 1 pin counter. Now is the time to burn this card, because that's going to be big. I'll have to exhaust all my energy. That's 3 damage and 1 pin counter, and I'll exhaust my champion for another 3 damage. So 6 damage, 1 pin counter. Literally nothing he can do. No avoids, no energy ready. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now the game is tied, and we add 1 pin counter. That little green marker is 1 pin counter. This is how this game works. And it just goes back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And ultimately, if, like I said, if you reduce your opponent down to 0 health, that instantly applies 3 pin counters, and your opponent has to find a way to fight out of that, or he loses. So it can be a pretty long, good game. The champions vary. Like we have these champions that are. I'm going to try and extend this out a little bit so you can see a bit more in the way of different champions before we wrap this up. So like you had the entry level champion. I'll show you the whole brawler champion tier that's going to be available at release. This is the low card brawler. This is the first mid card. Now there's 5 different ranks of champion: low card, mid card, high card, main event, and icon. Icon cards are not going to be available yet. They'll be coming later. But you got your low card. Low stamina, low attack, low defense. You got your mid card, slightly higher of all 3. You have a mid card variant that's going to be released in the initial set. This one is going to have a slightly weird look to its stats. Like this brawler is a mid card variant that has low attack, high defense, same stamina as his alternative. Same amount of damage and everything on his finisher, but just different base stats. So he's more of a defensive champion. High card, again, slightly higher health, more attack, more defense, and then you got your main event champion, high attack. Yeah, here we go. I was looking at I moved the cursor all over the place. Okay, high card. Here's your main event. Lots of stamina, lots of damage, lots of defense, way more damage on the finisher, all that. So, as you can see, it just gets more and more effective as you go up the line, and there's always that kind of variant champion in the middle of everything. But that's how the game works. Hopefully, if you have any other questions, go to squaredcircle.gkick.net, drop a question on the forums, let me know, or leave a question in the comments. Hit me up on Twitter if you ever want to play. But that's going to do it. So, see you next time.